Welcome to another part of the High Elves Abridged. In the previous part, I succeeded in my mission to take down Saruman, but this turned out to be pointless, so we just carried on playing as before. We took down an invasion coming in through our central front, and took the odd territory including Edoras in the east. Then we managed to end the war, which was very nice, giving us some time to cool off and prepare for the next phase of the war by bringing down a bunch of reinforcements. And here I am doing just that. We're pretty much going to be stacking up on their borders, ready to go, and Isengard are doing the same. That's kind of nice because it at least concentrates all their forces together so we can see what they have and where they are. Although this does of course reveal to us that we're quite outnumbered, there might be something we can do about that down the line. There is some bad news though. Mordor declare war on us and make this attack here. This is of course an enormous issue because Mordor are the new enemy superpower and they do border us quite a lot in the east. Luckily enough, by sending a guy to the Black Gate and asking for peace, they were like, sure. I'm not quite sure why they declared war on me, but it seems they weren't that interested in continuing the conflict, so the war ends immediately, that siege they just started goes away, and we're fine. So we're going to be continuing to ignore Mordor. I don't plan to fight Mordor in this campaign, and if they want to fight me, I'll probably just run away from them basically. However, in the next turn, they call an invasion on Imladris, or the Dark Lord does, I should say. So that's going to pretty much force Mordor and any other evil faction to end up being at war with me as a result of being in the invasion. Meaning this peace isn't going to last all that long. And it was in this turn I decided to get going with my attacks. We're not actually going to go back to war with Isengard this turn, I just want to get into position and then we'll declare war next turn. The thing I was doing just there, wildly clicking, was my mouse malfunctioning by the way. I've since bought a new one. But yes, there's a bit of a fun handicap in the gameplay coming up where my mouse can't single click very well anymore, which causes all sorts of mishaps. Anyway, so yes, I'm just setting up troops in positions ready to attack in the next turn. The goal being that we'll take both Helm's Deep and Isengard as our first moves in the war, gaining us some nice positions from which to work. We've also got an army near Bregnas that will just go and take that not particularly interesting territory. And we've got troops defending vaguely against moves up from the south from western Gondor. However, Isengard actually declare war on me in their turn, perhaps sensing I was about to do something to them. First, they've got this siege of this barely garrisoned fort down there in the south. Not much happening there. Overall, we can ignore that. Here's a more important setup. They've sent one of their many billions of armies to attack some guys standing on a bridge on their southern border here. They were standing on the bridge in the hopes that they would get attacked. I didn't plan to advance with this army, so this I suppose is what I wanted, just a little bit earlier than I wanted it, because I do have troops in a fort to the west that could have come over to help with this battle had I known. But anyway, here we are, a classic bridge defense. No ballistas sniping away at us for this one, and in fact it's us doing the sniping with ballistas and our catapults, so we can expect some good kills. Then we just cross our fingers and hope for low enemy morale, and this looks like it is going to be a low morale battle because pretty much right after they engaged us, we started seeing units rout, sometimes routing through us, but many of them annoyingly routed away from us. That usually doesn't happen, obviously that's what should always happen. But yeah, some of them worked out they can run back across the bridge to escape, some of them didn't. So we're not going to be getting massive numbers of kills, it's going to be a diminished number, but still pretty good. You can see in the bottom right that number is shooting up because I think at this stage the main blob has already started to rout while they're in the melee, so we're going to be capturing half the enemy army over the course of like 30 seconds. This doesn't end the battle because they do have berserkers in the blob, and we are going to have to just grind against them and trade troops with them to gradually kill them. They're unroutable and quite good. I seem to remember in my Isengard campaign holding off entire armies with single units of berserkers at Helm's Deep, probably due to glitches as well. At this stage, everything that's on the other side just starts withdrawing. The AI realise they've lost this one, so good AI. They're getting out of there. I can of course cross the river to go and hound them for a bit, and I was able to get more than 85% of stuff killed by the time everything actually routed. I ended the battle. We didn't quite defeat their entire army. We got a good result, but a few units did escape. Still, that's what we like to see, a nice favourable trade to start the war. Now we're going right into another battle, because Elrond's supposedly hidden army was not hidden, The enemy walks right up to us and starts this field battle. Pretty balanced. It's a good thing they didn't bring over more stuff, which they certainly could have done. And a lot of the units we see here are the lower tier of units, albeit with a bunch of experience and upgrades. So a pretty standard affair right here. We had a decent map where we could deploy on the side of a slope and get tons of good siege and arrow attacks on stuff. Those crossbows probably resisting the arrows but getting taken down by the catapults and ballistas quite nicely. Here I need to not be so eager to skirmish because the enemy are standing in front of me and throwing jabs at our front line. Might as well actually get this engagement going at this stage. We've also got some cav antics going on. You can see some things happening there on that other hill in the background. I sent a bunch of cav around the back to fight with the enemy's captain unit, and soon after that captain goes down, so that will help out with the main grind, which is just starting. Not only because it reduces morale, but you can see tons of stuff is coming over to come and fight the cav. We can just walk away and force all that stuff to not be in the main blob, making this rounds and pounds all the more powerful, and then we can start routing stuff nice and easy. Here we are a bit later with stuff generally just running all over the field, either routing or skirmishing, and we're going to dominate the field as we start cavalry attacking everything that moves. These archers will rout pretty much straight away once Glorfindel gets in there. And really that's going to be the story of the rest of the battle. Those raiders are holding on to the very end, but they die. Bringing us to this point, we've killed virtually everything in their army and our losses were far below average. Overall, a very good fight, so again, just what we needed to start this campaign off. Now they're going to make a couple of moves that will bypass our defences. One army's going around that bridge we just defended, another army's going around Elrond, so those armies actually pose a threat because they could take stuff behind me, although I'm not going to pay too much attention to that because my main goal is to take their stuff. Even if we temporarily lose some other stuff, that's okay. We're going for some more serious targets, like right here. So Elrond just plows on to Helm's Deep. There is a high level commander inside, so I wasn't really trusting the auto-resolve too much here, although I did go for it and accept this not very good result. Because Helm's Deep has no towers, it's the kind of place you could probably attack for virtually no casualties manually. It's just finicky and I can't be bothered to actually do it. So I accept losing 100 or so troops to take Hornburg, and then we'll just sit inside. In my previous Isengard campaign we defended that location many times, and because it's kind of glitchy, it's very easy to defend, so I was happy to sit there and try to draw the enemy in. As for the army that walked past us, I'm going to have the backup army stand on this very difficult to see bridge that's behind the hill of Edoras, thinking they might go and attack us, and then the fact that we don't have very much in the way of numbers might not be so bad because we'll be on the bridge anyway. We can also make this attack at Bregnus. Just going to storm over here. They've got their faction heir inside this settlement, so another chance to work towards theoretically sniping their faction away by destroying the royal family, the thing that you can't actually do. Again, I don't trust the auto-resolve, and it is quite a bad auto-resolve. We lose about 500 troops to take this place now. I was like, okay, that's too much. We're going to have to save scum and actually do this the slow way. It was a very easy to attack settlement, so yes, that auto-resolve was just being mean on account of the enemy commander rank being high. In reality, there's not really much you can do. We can actually shoot their units from outside of the fortifications with our archers, which really screws with the AI. Eventually though, we do go on in and start killing stuff. Here we've got some of the Origian Smiths, a rare unit. I think they might be an armor-piercing unit or something. They have hammers and shields as their get-up. Here fighting these crossbow Uruks in melee, that should go just fine. We can hack through them with minimal casualties. They've also got their general's bodyguard on the field. He was defending the capture point over there, and I just swarmed him with a bunch of our decent melee troops. And the Uruk general's bodyguard, as mentioned before, tend to die relatively fast. It's just the generals themselves that survive. After a while, as we saw there, once pretty much everything's dead, the general also died, leaving just a few berserkers and the odd troop here and there to clear up, leading to this victory. That results a bit more like it. We actually lost a decent amount compared to the amount the enemy lost, but that's just because they had good units only pretty much in there. So that's that. Bregnus is taken and the enemy's faction heir is dead. Then when deciding what to do with the army of Bregnus, I noticed that Isengard have actually joined the invasion, the crusade type thing. So they are going to be sending that army towards Imladris. We might need to pay attention to that. Handily, I've got this army that was on the way down from the Imladris area, and they can set up kind of midway to intercept. Plus, we've got some more recruitment options becoming available now, so I can make another army at Imladris before stuff arrives, or hopefully before. Overall, not too worried about the invasion prospects. As for what I did with that army at Breakness, I eventually just walked out and stood on the road. I didn't really want to plough all the way to the right, because I was worried that the enemy could gang up a bunch of stuff and swarm me, which I guess they can kind of do at any time. What tends to happen is they don't really think of that, so we're probably fine. Here's a more important move we've got to make. It's time for our strike on Isengard, and we're conveniently already set up to do it. We can go in with this army that has siege stuff and attack right now. I'm going to leave the second army because I wanted to do something else with it afterwards. So for now, we're going to make this manual attack. They do spawn 1,000 extra orcs to defend, so it turns a one-sided battle into something a little bit balanced. However, Isengard, as one of these special maps, follows the trend of the special maps being much worse than the regular ones. There are no towers and it's got a circular wall, so it's the hardest possible to defend settlement, or I guess the walls are high enough that they can stop arrows sometimes. They do have one ranged unit and they're going to put them up on the wall in front of me. This is inconvenient because we don't have any ladders, we can't go up and stop them from shooting at us, so we need to just wait, open the gate and then go around the other side and climb up the back of the wall. This actually takes a while, especially because getting up the wall proved a bit difficult. They cut down scores of our good archers with their armor-piercing shots, until eventually we managed to get some guys to single file up these near vertical stairs, and then we can get the crossbows into melee. We should be able to win that fight now since I'm sending in the Smith's unit that's good against most stuff, so that's fine, we'll leave that going in the background. As for the main fight, the enemy are mostly just standing on the capture point, so to start with we stand around, rain some arrows and ballista bolts on them. After a while this is going to rile them up to start attacking us, but what we didn't see was them just charging forwards into my prepared line, which is annoying of them. Instead, they're mainly going out to both flanks. I had put stuff out on the flanks, thinking I'll use them later, but they're now going to be facing the brunt of the enemy's attack. Here, these low quality horsemen probably aren't much of a threat to our better horsemen, so happy to just take that melee fight and grind it down, nothing special there. On the other side, I'm going to run away from their advance in that direction and try to draw them back to our main position. Ultimately, I had to just charge forwards and try to get everything into melee, taking some serious friendly fire from the ballistas as I do so, all good stuff. Eventually this is going to turn into a bunch of small fights all over the place. This has the advantage of allowing me to capture the central point and get the timer going at least. And yes, the fights, we just kind of wait to win. We have better stuff than them, so we don't have to worry, it's just not the most efficient tactics, I suppose. So we kill stuff, the timer's counting down, and actually we don't kill everything before the 6 minutes of the timer are done, because their general is one of these immortal generals who just fought forever. So eventually we end the battle on the timer, didn't lose all that much stuff, and most importantly we have taken the symbolic territory of Isengard. It's more than symbolic too, because their best units were probably recruited from here. So by taking over this place, this is going to be a nail in their coffin. It should severely hamper their ability to absolutely spam us from this point onwards. So with any luck, we're now in the home straight of this campaign. We just need to finish them off. As for that other army I didn't use, here's what I wanted to do with it. There's this enemy force on a bridge that we can go and attack. We're going to do the classic turn a bridge attack into a bridge defense thing by trying to outrange the enemy, with the goal of not only destroying this enemy army, but being on the bridge ourselves, since that's a bridge that is splitting right now a lot of the enemy troops from west to east. It turned out to not really be a bridge, it's actually a river crossing, and that changes things up a little bit, I think, as we'll see. To start with, we're going to have a ballista war, because we have 3 units of ballistas, they have 1. So in order to gain a overall ranged advantage, I figure let's try and actually take out all their ballistas. You need like pinpoint accuracy to actually hit them and destroy them, but it does occasionally happen, and with 3 units firing, it's going to happen after not too long of a wait. Also, because their ballistas were kind of in amongst everything else, every time we missed, we were still picking up kills on things, so it's not like these are wasted shots. After a while, the enemy have lost 3 of their 4 ballistas, and the 4th ballista was pushed forward to a position that's actually in another unit, so probably wouldn't be able to fire properly from there. Still, I think we shot it to death after a while, and the enemy did start coming forwards, but then they stopped at the water's edge, and this appears to be what's different with this not being technically a bridge battle. We weren't able to aggro the enemy into making a crossing. This seems to work pretty consistently in regular bridge battles, which is why I blame it not technically being a bridge battle. Basically, they were happy to skirmish and stand in this strange column formation, including this unit with its flank to us. So we ended up shooting at each other for a while, running out of ammo, and then I had to just start making a crossing, otherwise we're just going to run out the time limit and lose. Strangely, once I got about halfway across, the enemy did start crossing to meet us on this island in the middle. So clearly the AI is behaving a bit differently to regular bridge battles, and that's going to make things a tiny bit harder for us. But that said, making a crossing here won't be that difficult, since our units are just better than theirs. We are going to take casualties to the fact they have quite a few archers shooting at us, but they'll also suffer the same thing. We have quite a few archers shooting at them. And in this melee, we can just cut down all of their reavers and raiders pretty easily with our mostly elite troops. Somewhere in that blob we take out their captain as well. Although this didn't have a very big effect on morale, we pretty much killed everything grinding our way forwards. I had the spearmen in the shield wall formation for this one to give us that extra mass, and you can see the effect of this. It means we're kind of pushing forwards and separating the enemy force out, and gradually making the crossing even in the melee. We're just moving the melee back over to the other side. So we hacked through all that stuff. Then we just have to break out of the other side where there was more stuff waiting around, including a bunch of archers and hidden units. Now they didn't last all that long, and we eventually rout everything and I just ended the battle. There actually was a decent amount of enemy stuff left alive on the field at the end, but overall, a good result, and nothing too punishing for actually having to make the bridge attack. And of course we get the desired result, that being that the bridge is now ours, or the fake bridge, so now we can do a crossing defense potentially against any of these big armies if they go for it. I'm going to ignore the fact we're being kind of outflanked in the south where that other crossing is, and just reinforce our guys on the bridge without moving them. Well, I'll eventually reinforce them with these troops, because the enemy might not actually go around us, they might just try and attack the bridge from the other side, so I was happy to just stand there, plus I don't really mind if they take the nearby territory at this point. Next we need to deal with this little siege over here, where the enemy have my guys who are supposed to guard against the Gondorian Uruks coming north, trapped in a fort, but the guys in the other fort next door can come over to relieve things, and we can easily unite the two armies together. This battle went quite well for us, because the enemy threw their Jav troops into melee, just charging right at us, so that was good of them. There was a massive build up to this as I tried to get around the fact they were on this tall hill. We ended up fighting them uphill anyway, it just wasn't so bad. Now we're going to get in there and kill them. That's pretty much all there is to it. The hunters die fast. Then they have these wargs that do get a somewhat okay charge off on our Lindar guards, and we even get some flashy numbers death here. But their captain is among the unit and can get killed now. We've got the pikes going in against them as well. Eventually everything routs, and that's pretty much that. We've lost a bit more of our already not particularly strong force and relieved that siege. This army is only really important because it's close to the man himself. The enemy faction leader is actually nearby, not within movement range for this turn. We're not going to move out anyway because I want to link up with those few good units coming down as reinforcements to put an army together and then march south in general. We've also got our army of good units that's going to come around and attack from the other side. Still a few turns before we can land it, but it's coming soon. We're nearly there with that one. Now we've got an attack to deal with our little bridge that we took earlier. The enemy sent a massive army with over 3,000 enemies to attack us. Looks like they have the advantage here, but we'll have the crossing. Maybe we can do something with that. They do have catapults, and that is of prime concern since they might just blow us up. So early on, I wanted to try and focus those guys down. Here I am trying to set up as close to the river as possible so that our ballistas will be in range of their catapults. Looks like they got a good early hit there and took out a bunch of our decent archers. We're also in archer range of the front of their army, which is currently doing nothing. We'll come back to that. Here's me trying to take out the catapults. What I found happened was we were able to take out one of the three, but then for some reason the ballistas wouldn't target the other siege pieces. They just shot the bit of floor where the first one they destroyed was previously. So after a while, we weren't making any progress, but we were at least taking out the troops that are also standing here, so it's not completely a waste of shots. And for some reason, the catapults just stopped firing after we took out the first one, so while we did fail to take out the catapults, they effectively are taken out in that they're just kind of sitting there now. And the same can be said for everything else. They're supposed to be attacking us, but again, because it's not a real bridge, that seems to affect things. The AI is just standing there, so we're having a prolonged skirmish. We're both in range of each other on either side of the river, so our archers are fighting with the enemy's crossbows and archers. Also, our ballistas are picking up a bunch of kills. I did persuade these wargs to come forward by putting some of my cav in the middle of the river here. They were tempted to go and attack them, but not really, so they kind of glitched out walking backwards and forwards. Clearly the AI is very intent on defending their side of the river and isn't letting its individual units cross over when they aggro onto things. So I just went back and waited really. This is a situation where we can win by waiting the time limit out, it's just not very efficient. And I did want the enemy to cross so we could kill some of them ideally. What happened was I just kind of sat there and eventually they shuffled forwards to the point when they were kind of on our side of the river, and a lot of the other units are now kind of just walking towards us. They appear not to have charging or attack orders, they're just coming over here to form up. But since they're going to get stuck into the front of our army, then a fight will begin. We've also got the last bits of ammunition on our ballistas to use up on those blobs. I had been saving a few shots in case the catapults came back into action, but they just stayed back there doing nothing and not firing, so nice of them. We're going to get away without dealing with the catapults. And now we wait. We can cut down plenty of enemies with our last few ballista shots, and they'll gradually stroll forwards into the fight. That fight's just going to be a classic grind, which is a little bit worrying because they do have a lot of stuff and we don't necessarily have a lot of stuff to stop them. But there is going to be a bit of the mysterious surrounding morale debuff thing going on here, where we're fighting so many enemy units at the same time that it inflicts some sort of hidden morale debuff that I don't really understand. We're seeing stuff start to filter out of the fight even with relatively low casualties, so that's what we like to see. And we killed their captain, who was among the wargs I think at some point early on. Now we wait and it's just a big grindy fight that we're going to win. The enemy end up in fight to the death mode, which as I said many times I think is fine. I think this is equivalent to routing. So we'll start cutting that blob to pieces, and then we need to cross the river and attack the other stuff that didn't cross, like a few archer units and their catapults of course. We saw the thing happen where once they lost a bunch of men they started to withdraw everything that wasn't engaged. Good AI. We chase them off the map and end up with this result. Pretty good, probably the standard kind of result proportions after that strange battle, but it's done the job in that huge enemy army is now dead, massively weakening them in the core, and their other main army in the area is going for this bridge battle as well. So this is another chance to bring an army down, and after that I think we'll be relatively in the clear. They've still got 2 or 3 stacks worth of troops, but so do we, and our troops are going to be much better. So we'll do this battle at the start of the next part, and if we're lucky the next part might even be the final part. We'll see how it goes, but I think we are definitely en route to finish off Isengard soon.